What happens when Hollywood royalty walks onto a daytime talk show stage and completely unravels in front of millions of viewers? In just 38 seconds, one comment would ignite a firestorm that turned a friendly interview into an all-out war, ending with security escorting a furious guest off the set while cameras kept rolling. Kelly Clarkson had built her talk show empire on warmth, authenticity, and genuine connection with her guests. Her studio audience loved her because she treated everyone, from A-list celebrities to everyday heroes, with the same kind-hearted respect. But on this particular afternoon, that signature kindness would be tested in ways no one saw coming. The show's producer had been thrilled to book Meghan Markle. The booking had taken months of negotiations, carefully worded emails, and promises about topic boundaries. Meghan's team sent over a list of approved questions, forbidden subjects, and specific requirements about lighting, camera angles, and even the temperature of the studio. Kelly had dealt with high-maintenance guests before, but this felt different. Still, she was a professional. She would make it work. When Meghan walked onto the stage, the audience erupted in applause. She wore an elegant cream-colored pantsuit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Her smile was practiced, perfect, the kind that looked genuine in photographs, but never quite reached her eyes. Kelly stood to greet her, arms open for a hug, but Meghan extended her hand instead, keeping the distance formal and controlled. "Welcome to the show," Kelly said, her Texas warmth filling every word. "We are so excited to have you here." "Thank you for having me," Meghan replied, settling into the guest chair with careful precision. Everything about her posture screamed control. She crossed her legs at exactly the right angle, positioned her hands just so on the armrest, and tilted her chin to catch her best light. Kelly dove into the interview with her usual enthusiasm. "So, let's talk about your new project. You've been working on something really special, and I know our audience is dying to hear about it." Meghan's expression shifted, a flash of something sharp crossing her features. "Well, Kelly, I think what's really special is how I've managed to overcome so much adversity, to even be in a position to create meaningful work. Not everyone understands the unique challenges I've faced." The audience stayed quiet, politely attentive, but Kelly's smile tightened just a fraction. She had interviewed hundreds of guests who had faced real adversity, people who had survived cancer, lost everything in natural disasters, fought through poverty and discrimination. Something about Meghan's tone felt off, but Kelly pushed forward. "Absolutely, and I think our audience really connects with stories of resilience," Kelly said. "Can you tell us more about the project itself?" Meghan leaned forward, her voice taking on a lecturing quality. "I think it's important to recognize that when you're someone like me, someone who has had to navigate incredibly complex family dynamics and media scrutiny, every project becomes a statement. Every choice I make is analyzed and often misunderstood." Kelly nodded, trying to steer back to something concrete. "The project is a documentary series, right? What can viewers expect?" "It's so much more than just a documentary, Kelly," Meghan said, her tone dripping with condescension. "It's a cultural moment. It's about truth-telling in a world that doesn't want to hear certain truths. But I suppose that might be difficult for some people to grasp." A few audience members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Kelly's producer, watching from the wings, felt her stomach drop. This was going sideways fast. Kelly, ever the professional, smiled through it. "Well, I think truth-telling is something everyone can appreciate. What truths are you hoping to share?" "My truths," Meghan said, emphasizing the possessive. "The ones that have been silenced, dismissed, and frankly, stolen from me by people who have their own agendas. You know, Kelly, not everyone has had to fight the way I have. Some people," she gestured vaguely at Kelly, "get to just sing their way to success without understanding real struggle." The audience audibly gasped. Kelly's smile never wavered, but her eyes changed. Anyone who knew her could see the shift. She had been disrespected on her own show, and she was not about to let it slide. "Well," Kelly said, her voice still friendly, but with an edge of steel underneath. "I think a lot of people have different kinds of struggles. Success doesn't erase the hard work it took to get there." Meghan waved a dismissive hand. Of course. I'm not saying you haven't worked hard, Kelly. I'm just saying there are levels to this. Some of us carry burdens that others simply cannot comprehend." Kelly's producer was frantically signaling from offstage, trying to get Kelly to cut to a commercial break, but Kelly was not backing down. She had given respect and received nothing but contempt in return. "You know what, Meghan," Kelly said, sitting up straighter in her chair. "I've interviewed people who have been through unimaginable things. Single mothers working 3 jobs. Veterans dealing with injuries and trauma. People who lost everything and rebuilt from nothing. And not one of them has ever sat in that chair and diminished someone else's experience to elevate their own." The audience erupted in applause. Meghan's face flushed, her carefully controlled facade cracking. "Excuse me?" Meghan's voice went up an octave. "Are you seriously comparing my experience to random people? Do you have any idea who I am? What I've been through?" "I know exactly who you are," Kelly said calmly. "You're a guest on my show who seems to have forgotten basic manners." Meghan stood up abruptly, her microphone pack nearly yanking out of her waistband. "This is absolutely unacceptable. I was told this would be a respectful interview. I was promised certain considerations." "And you were given every consideration," Kelly replied, remaining seated, her posture relaxed but her gaze unwavering. "What you weren't promised was a free pass to insult me or anyone else who has worked hard for their success." "I am not insulting you," Meghan snapped, her voice rising. "I am simply stating facts. The fact is, some people face more scrutiny, more challenges, more barriers than others. If you can't handle that conversation, then maybe you're not as open-minded as you pretend to be." Kelly finally stood, matching Meghan's energy, but not her anger. "I can handle any conversation when it's done with respect. What I won't handle is someone coming onto my stage, into this space that we've built on kindness and authenticity, and treating it, and me, like we're beneath you." "Beneath me?" Meghan's laugh was sharp and humorless. "You think this is about superiority? This is about you being unable to hold space for difficult truths. This is about you being intimidated by someone who refuses to play small." The audience was dead silent now, every eye glued to the unfolding confrontation. Camera operators kept filming, knowing this was unprecedented television. "I'm not intimidated by you, Meghan," Kelly said, her voice steady and clear. "I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed because I genuinely looked forward to this conversation. I thought we could talk about your work, your passions, the things you care about. Instead, you've spent the last 10 minutes talking down to me and anyone else you seem to think hasn't suffered enough to meet your standards." Meghan grabbed her purse from beside the chair, her hands shaking with rage. "I don't have to sit here and listen to this. Do you know how many shows would kill to have me? How many interviews I turn down every single day?" "Then maybe you should have turned down this one," Kelly said simply, "because clearly you didn't want to be here, at least not in any real way." "You know what your problem is, Kelly?" Meghan stepped closer, her voice dripping with venom. "Your problem is that you're too comfortable. You sit here in your little bubble, with your little audience, asking your little questions, and you think that makes you relatable. But you don't challenge anything. You don't push boundaries. You just smile and nod and make everyone feel good about themselves." Kelly's jaw tightened, but her voice remained calm. "And your problem, Meghan, is that you think challenging people means tearing them down. You think pushing boundaries means being rude. There's a difference between being honest and being cruel, and right now, you're being cruel." "I'm being honest," Meghan shot back. "Maybe that's something you're not used to. Maybe everyone around you just tells you what you want to hear. Or maybe," Kelly said, taking a step forward, "the people around me treat me with basic human decency, Because I treat them the same way. It's really not that complicated. Meghan's face was red now, her composure completely shattered. I want my team. Get my team out here right now. A production assistant nervously approached from the side of the stage, but Kelly held up a hand, stopping them. Before you go, Meghan, I want to say one more thing. I don't want to hear it, Meghan snapped, but she didn't move. You're going to hear it anyway, Kelly said. You came here today with an opportunity to connect with people, to share your story in your own words, to be seen the way you want to be seen, and you threw it away. Not because of me, not because of this show, but because you couldn't get out of your own way long enough to just be present. How dare you psychoanalyze me, Meghan hissed. You don't know anything about me. You're right, Kelly agreed. I don't. Because every time I tried to ask you something real, something that would let the audience get to know you, you turned it into a lecture about how hard your life is compared to everyone else's. That's not sharing your story, Meghan. That's using your story as a weapon. Meghan opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. You are way out of line. No, Kelly said firmly. I'm exactly where I need to be. This is my show. This is my stage. And I won't let anyone, no matter who they are or what they think they're entitled to, turn it into a platform for putting other people down. Entitled? Meghan's voice went shrill. You're calling me entitled. That's rich coming from someone who has everything handed to her on a silver platter. Kelly actually laughed, a genuine sound of disbelief. Handed to me. Meghan, I grew up in Texas with nothing. I won a singing competition and worked my tail off for every single opportunity that came after. I didn't marry into success. I earned it. The moment those words left Kelly's mouth, the entire studio seemed to freeze. It was the most direct hit yet, and everyone knew it. Meghan's entire body went rigid. That is so far over the line, I don't even know where to begin. Then don't, Kelly said, her voice quieter now, but no less firm. Just go, because this interview is over. You're kicking me out? Meghan looked around as if expecting someone to come to her defense. You're actually kicking me out? I'm ending an interview that should have ended 10 minutes ago, Kelly corrected. You're free to leave with dignity, or we can keep doing this, but either way, we're done here. Meghan's publicist suddenly appeared from backstage, rushing toward her client with panic written all over her face. Meghan, let's just go. Come on, let's go. But Meghan shook her off. No, I'm not going anywhere until she apologizes. The audience collectively held its breath. Kelly crossed her arms and looked Meghan dead in the eye. I'm not apologizing for standing up for myself and my show. If you want an apology, try looking in a mirror. This is unbelievable, Meghan sputtered. Wait until people hear about this. Wait until the world knows how I was treated here. They're going to know, Kelly said, gesturing to the cameras still rolling. Because all of this has been recorded. Every word, every moment. So yeah, people will see exactly how you were treated, which was with respect and kindness until you made that impossible. Meghan's publicist grabbed her arm more forcefully this time. Meghan, we need to leave. Right now. But Meghan pulled away again, pointing a finger at Kelly. You have no idea who you're messing with. No idea. Kelly didn't flinch. I'm not messing with anyone. I'm protecting my space and the people who work here. That's what a good host does. A good host? Meghan laughed bitterly. A good host would have let me speak my truth without attacking me. And a good guest, Kelly countered, would have shown up ready to have a conversation instead of a confrontation. You set the tone here, Meghan. I just refuse to accept it. The standoff continued, neither woman willing to back down. Finally, Kelly turned to her producer. Can we get security, please? That was the breaking point. Meghan's face went white, then red again. You're calling security on me? On me? You've been asked to leave, and you won't leave, Kelly said matter-of-factly. So yes, I'm calling security. That's how this works. Two security guards appeared at the edge of the stage, their presence professional, but unmistakable. Meghan looked at them, then back at Kelly, her expression a mixture of fury and disbelief. This is how you treat people? Meghan asked, her voice shaking. This is what you call kindness? Kindness has limits, Kelly said, and you found mine. Meghan grabbed her purse again, clutching it like a shield. Everyone is going to know about this. Everyone. Good, Kelly said simply. Let them. The publicist finally managed to guide Meghan toward the stage exit, murmuring urgent words that the microphones couldn't quite catch. Meghan walked with stiff, angry steps, her head held high in a last attempt at dignity. But just before disappearing behind the curtain, she turned back one final time. You're going to regret this, Kelly. Kelly didn't miss a beat. The only thing I regret is not ending this sooner. And with that, Meghan was gone, ushered out by security and her frantic publicist, while the audience sat in stunned silence. For a long moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The cameras kept rolling, capturing Kelly standing alone on the stage, her chest rising and falling with the adrenaline of what had just happened. Then, slowly, one person started clapping. Then, another. Then, another. Within seconds, the entire studio audience was on their feet, giving Kelly a standing ovation that lasted nearly a full minute. Some people were cheering. Others were wiping away tears. But everyone understood they had witnessed something extraordinary. Kelly's eyes got misty as she looked out at the crowd, overwhelmed by their support. She held up her hands, trying to quiet them down, but the applause only grew louder. When the audience finally settled, Kelly took a deep breath and spoke directly to the camera. I don't usually get confrontational. Anyone who watches this show knows that's not who I am or what this space is about. But I also won't let anyone, and I mean anyone, use this platform to demean others or act like basic respect is optional. The audience applauded again. Shorter this time, but just as enthusiastic. Kelly continued, her voice steadier now. We've had some incredible guests on this show. People who have been through real trauma, real hardship, real struggles, and every single one of them has shown up with grace and humility. That's what I respect. That's what this show is built on. She paused, collecting her thoughts. I hope Meghan finds what she's looking for. I really do. But it's not going to be here, and it's not going to come from putting other people down. The audience member in the front row called out, "We love you, Kelly." Others echoed the sentiment, and Kelly smiled, a real smile this time, the kind that did reach her eyes. I love you guys too, she said. Thank you for having my back. Now, let's take a quick break and come back with someone who actually wants to be here and have a good conversation. As the show cut to commercial, Kelly walked off stage to her producer, who immediately wrapped her in a hug. That was insane, the producer whispered. Are you okay? Kelly nodded, still processing everything. I think so. Did we really just have to escort a guest out with security? We really did, the producer confirmed, and I'm pretty sure the internet is going to explode when this airs. Kelly laughed shakily. Well, at least it'll be honest. That whole thing was honest, if nothing else. Back in the studio audience, people were buzzing with energy, recounting every moment to each other, already knowing they had been present for something that would be talked about for years. The woman who had started the standing ovation turned to her friend and said, I've been watching Kelly since season 1. I've never seen her like that. She was protecting herself, her friend replied. Good for her. That guest was so out of line. In Meghan's dressing room, chaos reigned. Her publicist was on 3 phone calls at once, trying to do damage control before the episode even aired. Meghan sat on the couch, arms crossed, still fuming. I can't believe she spoke to me like that. Who does she think she is? Meghan, the publicist said carefully, ending her calls. I need you to listen to me very carefully. What happened out there was bad. Really bad. And it's all on tape. So, Meghan snapped, she attacked me. She was disrespectful and condescending, and you told her she had things handed to her, the publicist interrupted. You dismissed her success. You implied she wasn't capable of understanding real struggle. Meghan, you were the aggressor here. Meghan's face hardened. I was being honest. There's a difference between honesty and cruelty, the publicist said, unknowingly echoing Kelly's earlier words. And right now, that difference is going to determine how this story plays out. But Meghan wasn't listening anymore. She was already mentally drafting her own version of events. The one where she was the victim. The one where Kelly had been jealous and threatened and unprofessional. The truth of what had actually happened was already being rewritten in her mind, shaped and molded to fit the narrative she needed. Meanwhile, backstage at the show, Kelly was touching up her makeup for the next segment. Her hands were still shaking slightly, but her resolve was solid. She had done the right thing. She knew it in her bones. Her co-producer knocked on the dressing room door. Kelly, you've got about 2 minutes before we're back. I'm ready, Kelly said, standing up and straightening her blazer. And she was. She was more than ready. When the show came back from commercial, Kelly welcomed her next guest, a teacher from Oklahoma who had started a program to provide free meals to students in need. The interview was everything the first one should have been. Warm, genuine, inspiring. The teacher talked about the challenges of working in an underfunded school system, about the kids who showed up hungry every morning, about the community that rallied together to help. You're doing incredible work, Kelly said, and she meant every word. This is what real service looks like. The teacher blushed. I'm just doing what I can. There are so many people doing so much more. And there's that humility again, Kelly said, glancing briefly at the camera with a knowing look that made the audience laugh and applaud. They all understood the subtle reference. The rest of the show went smoothly, filled with music, laughter, and genuine human connection. By the time Kelly signed off, the earlier confrontation felt almost surreal, like it had happened on a different show entirely. But it had happened. And as Kelly drove home that evening, she knew the fallout was only beginning. Her phone was already blowing up with messages from friends, colleagues, and network executives who had heard about the incident. The episode wouldn't air for another week, but word was spreading fast. Kelly pulled into her driveway and sat in the car for a moment, letting out a long breath. She had spent years building a reputation as one of the kindest, most genuine people in entertainment. She never created drama. She never picked fights. She was the safe space, the warm hug, the bright spot in people's days. But she was also human, and humans have limits. She thought about all the people she had interviewed who had faced real adversity with grace. The cancer survivors who smiled through their pain. The parents who had lost children but still found ways to honor their memories. The activists fighting for justice without losing their compassion. Those were her role models. Those were the people who inspired her. And then she thought about Meghan, sitting in that guest chair with her designer outfit and her practiced expressions, talking about struggle while actively creating it, demanding respect while giving none, expecting special treatment while offering nothing but contempt. Kelly's phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from her mom. Heard about what happened at the show today. Are you okay, baby? Kelly smiled and typed back, I'm good, Mom. I promise. It was intense, but I'm proud of how I handled it. Her mom's response came quickly. I'm proud of you too. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is stand up to someone who's being unkind. Love you. Love you too, Kelly typed, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. Inside her house, Kelly poured herself a glass of wine and sat down on the couch, finally allowing herself to process everything. The confrontation replayed in her mind, each moment sharp and clear. She wondered if she could have handled it differently, if there was a way to have diffused the situation before it escalated. But deep down, she knew the answer was no. Meghan had come in with an agenda, with a chip on her shoulder, with something to prove. Nothing Kelly could have said or done would have changed that trajectory. The only choice she'd had was whether to accept the disrespect or push back against it. She had chosen to push back, and she would make that choice again. The next few days were a whirlwind. Despite the episode not having aired yet, details were leaking everywhere. Someone in the studio audience had posted about it on social media, and the post had gone viral. Suddenly, everyone was talking about the Kelly versus Meghan showdown, taking sides, making predictions about what the footage would show. Kelly stayed quiet, refusing interview requests and declining to comment on the situation. She let her team handle the press inquiries while she focused on continuing to do her show, to be the person her audience relied on. Meghan, on the other hand, was anything but quiet. Her representatives released a statement calling the entire situation a regrettable misunderstanding, and claiming that Kelly had misinterpreted Meghan's comments. The statement was carefully worded, technically not lying, but not telling the truth either. People who knew Kelly weren't buying it. Her reputation spoke for itself. If Kelly Clarkson, of all people, had ended an interview and called security, then the guest must have done something truly out of line. When the episode finally aired, complete with the entire unedited confrontation, the internet exploded exactly as predicted. But the response wasn't divided. It was overwhelmingly in Kelly's favor. People watched Meghan's condescension, her dismissiveness, her escalating rudeness, and they understood exactly why Kelly had responded the way she did. The moment when Meghan implied Kelly had success handed to her became the most replayed clip, with thousands of people defending Kelly's journey and calling out Meghan's audacity. The final confrontation, with Kelly calmly standing her ground while Meghan fell apart, became iconic. Kelly's ratings skyrocketed. The episode became the most watched in the show's history, and the clips continued to circulate for weeks afterward. But for Kelly, the real victory wasn't in the numbers or the vindication. It was in the messages she received from viewers. A single mom wrote, "Thank you for showing my daughter that being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. You can be both strong and compassionate." A teacher emailed, "I've dealt with so many entitled parents over the years. Watching you stand up for yourself gave me courage to do the same." A young woman tweeted, "Kelly Clarkson just taught a masterclass in setting boundaries with grace." Those were the messages that mattered. Those were the moments that reminded Kelly why she did what she did. As for Meghan, the incident followed her for months, becoming a reference point whenever discussions about entitlement and celebrity behavior came up. Her team tried to spin it, tried to reframe it, but the footage didn't lie. People had seen exactly what happened, and no amount of PR could change that reality. Kelly never publicly gloated or rubbed it in. That wasn't her style. She simply moved forward, continuing to create the warm, authentic space her show had always been. The incident became a part of her story, but it didn't define her. If anything, it reinforced what people already knew, that Kelly Clarkson was the real deal. Someone who stood for kindness, but wouldn't sacrifice her dignity for anyone. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is show people where the line is, and what happens when they cross it.